at noon, a Rolls Royce that was being driven by rapper Rick Ross is towed away after crashing into a building in Fort Lauderdale. Completely smashed in. Both vehicles were left blocking the street until tow trucks hauled the cars away.
When you make it big in the world of rap, and for most rappers that means you get yourself a nice, shiny new car, which is a great idea if you know how to take care of it, which many rappers do not.
Never take it for granted before sharing 2 images of his red 2020 Ferrari 488 total.
Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.
NBA Youngboy.
Fuck that Lambo. I ain't the one who was even driving it.
The joys of being young, and in the case of rapper NBA Youngboy, getting to drive an incredible Lamborghini Spider, which is obviously a very impressive car that anyone would love to drive for one reason or another. And that's where the first of many twists come in with this story, because the Spider that NBA Youngboy was driving, it wasn't his, and he wrecked it royally back in 2017. So naturally, after he wrecked the vehicle, he waited for the police to come, filed a report about it, and more, right? Wrong. Because after brutally wrecking this car, he bolted and literally left the hunk of metal, which is what it basically was at that point, on the street, and the police showed up after someone else found it. Now the question becomes, if it wasn't NBA Youngboy's Lamborghini, whose was it? Well, that's where the next 2 major twists come in, because the owner was a rental car company, and in fact, it had been rented out just a day before the crash, which all in all is very basic and fine. Nothing illegal happened on that side of things. But the other twist is that the person who signed the contract for the Spider was not NBA Youngboy, but his manager. The manager signed in the contract that no one would be able to drive the Spider except for him, which means NBA Youngboy had no right to be behind that car, yet he did it anyway. And if you think for 1 second that the car rental company didn't come after him for damages, you don't know expensive car places, because not only did they press charges against him, but they filed a lawsuit against him to get the money needed to replace the car that he damaged. The bill would come to $350,000, which once again shows why these rides need to be given a great deal of respect, because if you don't, you'll end up in a wreck. Lil Yachty.
Never take it for granted before sharing 2 images of his red 2020 Ferrari 488 total.
Lil Yachty is still a rather young rapper in the game who's gone on to make a name for himself, but while Lil Yachty is infinitely talented, he's someone who has to obey certain laws. While the last entry was about violating the laws of man, Lil Yachty in June 2020 had to go and fight the laws of nature. Mainly, don't go driving in a heavy rainstorm. In June, Lil Yachty was driving out in Atlanta when a massive rainstorm came through the area, and when it did, it literally caused the road to become filled with water, which obviously means it's not the best conditions to go and drive an expensive car in, such as the one that Lil Yachty was riding in via his Ferrari 488, which he purchased just days before what was about to happen. And to be clear, what was about to happen was a lot, because Lil Yachty's Ferrari would hydroplane and then hit a median wall that was nearby, slid 700 plus feet, weave across 7 lanes of traffic, and then finally stop after hitting a road barrier. Any one of those incidents could have resulted in Lil Yachty dying, full stop. But thankfully that didn't happen. In fact, quite ironically, he walked away with just minor injuries to his arm, which shows that the safety features on the car worked and that he got lucky. But losing a Ferrari that basically cost him $400,000? Yeah, not so much. That would hurt his wallet for many days to come. But this is yet another lesson, because when the rains come down, you need to be mindful, take things slow, and not drive a $400,000 car in these conditions. Unless of course you like having near-death experiences and wrecking your car. Just saying. Soulja Boy.
Thank you for helping me out, man. See what's going on. I almost killed myself.
Soulja Boy is a man/rapper of many faces, and to be honest here, not all of those faces are good. While he may have been the guy who helped start the social media rapper and all that and had some classic songs, he's also known for being a jerk and being a con artist. If you don't know, he tried to rebrand an already existing video game console and call it his own to sell. It didn't work out naturally. So given all that, is it really a surprise that he has a famous car wreck? We don't think so, especially when you hear that he was accused of causing it and not just being a recipient of it. This all happened all the way back in 2012 in Los Angeles. Apparently he was driving a very expensive Bentley down Hollywood when he decided to make a lane change, which would have been fine if there hadn't already been a car in that lane waiting for a light to change so that they could go. As a result of that, the 2 cars collided and there was a lot to be determined in regards to who was at fault. Naturally, Soulja Boy said that he had nothing to do with the crash at all, but unfortunately for him, there were multiple eyewitness accounts that said he made that reckless lane change and thus caused the accident. But wait, it gets worse and then dumber. One of the people in the car that Soulja Boy hit was a woman who was 6 months pregnant. She was fine and so was the baby, but that's not the kind of thing you want to happen to you. when you're expecting. Also, instead of accepting blame again for what happened, he later changed his story to say that it was his bodyguard driving his Bentley and thus caused the car accident. Yeah, sure. But wait, there's one last twist in this tale, because this red Bentley would be in another car accident, one that would wound a motorcycle driver after the car made, wait for it, an illegal turn. However, it wasn't Soulja Boy this time, but his friend Arab who was driving. Soulja Boy wasn't even in the car. That car clearly has bad things happen in it and to it. Travis Scott.
Oh, watch out, bro. It's Travis. Damn.
Travis Scott is a rapper that has been making waves both in the music world and in his personal life via his connection with Kylie Jenner. But when it comes to other connections that he has, one must bring up the terrible job he did of getting a car out of a parking spot situation. You see, he was driving a Lamborghini that was worth about $200,000 and he parked it in a regular spot. Sometime later, he came back and tried to back it up to get clearance to get out of the spot. As he did, a valet came around and tried to stop him. Why? Because he was about to back up into another car, which he totally hit. Granted, because of the slow speed he was going, it was basically a love tap, but yeah, that wasn't kosher. But wait, there's more. He not only didn't call any insurance companies after he assessed the damage to his car and the one he hit, he went and bolted. Not exactly the most responsible thing ever, Mr. Travis. YG. Sadly, not all accidents on this list can be as nonchalant as backing a car up into another car, because in 2018, YG had a very real and very dangerous car accident. To put it simply, he was going to his car after finishing a recording session. He found himself facing a gunman, one who fired upon him 3 times and struck his hip. In his first interview since the incident, YG told Billboard.com, "After I got shot, I'm telling everybody, take me to the hospital because I can't die. We hop in my homie's car and bam, we got into a car accident. We hit an island trying to avoid another car. We had to hop out of the totaled car, hop in another car. At the hospital, we had to tell people, take me serious right now. You don't even understand what's going on. It was wild." That's a horrifying thing for sure. And while the car's make wasn't the best, it was definitely something that had to be paid for later because you don't just crash into an island and walk away. Thankfully, YG had a full recovery, but that was a scary experience, no doubt. Lil Baby. In many ways, Lil Baby is a great rapper, but when it comes to his driving skills, not so much, because we can literally tell you multiple stories about how he's done reckless driving and caused damage to a lot of cars. But the one that earns a place on this list is the one where he crashed the car while making a music video, and they kept it in the video. This happened in the track We Paid, where you can see Lil Baby and his crew driving 2 Dodge Chargers of a very expensive variety. Then a few minutes in, you can see a clip of one of the cars crashing into the other and freaking out those who were riding in the car. So yeah, that happened because of course it happened. Post Malone.
Completely smashed in. Both vehicles were left blocking the street until tow trucks hauled the cars away.
Post Malone in many ways is one of the most unique rappers in the world, from his looks to his songs and more. He has a lot that sets him apart from the crowd. Another thing that sets him apart is his true love of cars, which is so numerous and plentiful and valuable that his collection of just his cars is worth an astonishing $4 million, which is partly due to the fact that his collection doesn't just have pricey modern models, but also some really nice vintage cars that would make many car fans jealous. But among that beautiful collection was a car known as the Rolls-Royce Wraith, which cost him $350,000. And since it's a Rolls-Royce, you know that it's a ride that is truly special and valuable and luxurious. Until he wrecked it, of course. Or to be more specific and accurate, until he got wrecked in it. We'll explain. You see, Post Malone and his friends were in the cars and driving through the Fernando Valley, where a person driving a Kia literally slammed into the vehicle. Post Malone was in the passenger side of the car, so he didn't take much damage. But his car? Yeah, not so much. The impact pretty much wrecked the entire left side of the car. It was a total loss. You might think, well, there must have been someone drunk behind the wheel or something, right? Ironically, no. In fact, both Post Malone, his friend, and the person behind the Kia were perfectly clean. It was just a random accident caused by the Kia driver and not Post or his friend. Though the car was a total loss, it wasn't all bad for Post Malone, as he would decide to treat himself to a replacement car via the Rolls-Royce Phantom, which by the way cost $400,000, meaning more than the Wraith cost. So while it may not have been the best night ever for Post, it did end up with him getting an even better new car, and of course he was completely chill during the whole event. Offset.
News broke that Offset from the rap group Migos was involved in a very serious collision in his Hellcat Challenger.
Offset is a rapper who has proven time and time again that he's not the best judge when it comes to his mental health, his physical safety, and the cars he drives. because in 2018 he very nearly wrecked his Dodge Challenger Demon in such a way that it nearly took his life. Now for real. According to the reports, the accident happened in the dead of night when Offset was pushing his car really hard, aka speeding, and then saw a pedestrian coming across the street in front of him. As a result of this, Offset tried to swerve in order to avoid the person, and as a result of that, he went and crashed his car in a very violent way. In fact, it was so violent that unlike what happened with the previous accident, Offset was honestly trapped inside the car. He couldn't get out of it on his own, and so as a result of that, he had to get help from a person named Jamar, who just so happened to be nearby. He helped get Offset out of the vehicle and to safety. All told, it could have been much worse for Offset for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that when the steaming hulk of his car was later sold at an auction, as art no less, it was fully shown just how much damage was honestly done to it. It was truly extensive, and it's honestly a miracle that he only had minor injuries, but sometimes that's just how it works. Oh, and do you recall Jamal? After helping save Offset's life, he was rewarded with an all-new Nissan Altima, a true thank you gift that not even the worst of critics could say was anything but a true present. And it's not hard to see why he did that, because if Jamar wasn't there, there was a very real chance that Offset could have died in that crash. Rick Ross.
At noon, a Rolls-Royce that was being driven by rapper Rick Ross is towed away after crashing into a building in Fort Lauderdale.
Rick Ross is a man who, like many rappers before him, prides himself on his persona as a big boss of the industry, which has been accused many times of being fake, but that's another list. He did make some big money in the rap world and thus one time bought a shiny Rolls-Royce and was driving it through Fort Lauderdale when things went horribly wrong. To be clear, this wasn't Rick Ross's fault, rather a car pulled up to him and attempted to do a drive-by attack on Ross, which is infinitely frightening in all the ways that matter. Naturally, Ross tried his best to avoid the shots on him and eventually crashed his car into an apartment building. Now, before you say that this is too fantastical to happen, it really did happen. There's a police report and everything citing all the damage to the car and the shots fired against Rick Ross. The only real question was about why the attack happened at all. The prevailing theory is that Ross insulted a known gang leader in one of his tracks, and as a result his group, who has people in Florida, attacked him in a payback, though to be clear, this was never proven. Though because it was never proven, some felt that this was a stunt by Ross to bring hype to his next album, which would be a very messy way of doing just that. Not the least of which is why would you do that to the car? This was an expensive Rolls Royce, and you'd wreck it to hopefully get more album sales? We don't think so. Lil Pump's Porsche. Lil Pump really loves his cars, but his first one is still very special to him, despite some things he did to it. A $50,000 car bought by someone like Lil Pump may not sound expensive, but when it's a $50,000 Porsche being bought by a kid who just came into cash, that's a very big distinction. But it's the timing that singles out this particular car, as this was his first car purchase after he struck it big with his hit song Gucci Gang. So this car has a lot of significance for him. You have to admit, for his first purchase of an exotic car, he made a good choice. And for only $50,000, where the song made him much more than that, this was definitely one example of impulse control. A Porsche is a dream car for many, especially a yellow one. Oh, and the $50,000 price tag I noted is an estimate for one of the more base versions of this particular car, depending on how much custom work or additions Lil Pump had done to it. It could have easily been $100,000 before the deal was done. But thankfully for both him and the car, the damage was very minimal, just a hit on the hood and the door. He took pictures of it to show it off later. But that is a lesson that you can't just go and try your cars like they're unbreakable, because they're not. And there you have it, a look at various rappers who have gone on and gotten expensive cars only to wreck them hugely.